Hello, everybody. Welcome to T.O.'s Roadhouse. I'm so excited about our guests on the show today. Mr. Riley Gaines is in the house. 12-time All-American. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. It feels like a lifetime ago now. I'm 2 years removed from college, and those 2 years have been a whirlwind.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that's changed in your life. So we met recently. We were introduced by some mutual friends, but we met at one of the Riley Green shows earlier in the spring.
That's right.
Got a chance to visit with you a little bit then. And I'm sure what little bit we got to talk then, the path that your life has taken is probably never was on your radar before it happened.
No way.
Yeah.
How could it have been? Never a position I imagined myself in. But really, I mean, nevertheless, a position I would have imagined it would be necessary for anyone to take. But here we are, right? And so you kind of just day by day, you roll with the punches, you take it on the chin, and you progress forward. So
I just, I want to go back and I want to talk about your journey from childhood and all the years of dedication, because it's not something, to get to the upper echelon of the college NCAA and to compete at the level that you were at. That's not something that happens overnight. And to have all the rules change at the end and having biological males competing against you, not only in swimming, but boxing and volleyball and all these other things, and people getting injured and hurt. I mean, it's happening all over the country. But let's, my daughters grew up in the dance world, and their dedication was tremendous. And, coming out of high school, my oldest danced in college and everything, so she was still involved much later on. When did you have your first competition meet? How old were you when you competed for the first time?
So I grew up right here in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Started swimming, the typical thing a lot of young kids do, the summer swim thing. Started that when I was 4. Didn't really start getting overly competitive until I was about 8. That's when I switched to the more year-round team. We were practicing. I mean, even at 8 years old, you're there every single day. So that's when I would say things, progressed. But I would say, 12, 13, 14, that's when it was, you're going to practice before school. You're going to school. Straight from school, you go back to the pool to practice another 2.5 hours. You go home, eat your dinner, ice your shoulders, do your homework, go to bed. You wake up, you do it all again the next day.
So when you're training at that level, are you doing laps? Do you do any cardio work? Is everything in the pool? I mean, what was your training routine like?
At that level, high school and younger, we weren't, we didn't get in the weight room or anything like that. So it was a lot of time and
just
in
laps
the pool.
and
You're staring at that. You think of a pool, it's got that black line at the bottom. Oh my gosh, the amount of hours that I have stared at that same black line. You can't talk, you're in the water, you're holding your breath. It's a pretty miserable, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I do this for so long?
Where did you go to school at?
I went to Station Camp High School in Gallatin, and then went off to college, and I went to University of Kentucky.
Did they have an indoor pool there, or did they have an indoor facility?
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, we swam indoor a lot. Over my years, I got into triathlons and different things, and so I spent a lot of time in Old Hickory Lake.
Did you really?
Old Hickory Lake swimming, and I can't even tell you the amount of, snakes that swim by, or like dead catfish
they won't bite you in the water is what they say.
Come on, I don't know if I can outswim a snake, Tracy.
I don't like snakes.
But you've got, dead catfish that are floating on top, and you're not looking, and they hit you. It was, unpleasant to say the least.
Golly, that's not the cleanest lake in the world. There's a lot of sludge and stuff coming down through there.
Yeah,
lots of boats on that body of water.
It's
a great fishing lake, but I wouldn't want to swim in it.
No way.
Yeah,
especially over COVID. COVID hit in, of course, March of 2020, and so it was the end of my sophomore year in college. We were sent home, right? I mean, it was a very unprecedented time, lots of uncertainty. We didn't really know what this meant. Our university sent us back home, coming back home, which we are so fortunate to be in Tennessee. But even still, pools were shut down, gyms were closed. And so I was out in Old Hickory Lake every single day, and I swam, I'd put a wetsuit on because this is March. It's pretty cold in that water. Yeah. So I'd put a wetsuit on and I would swim miles just aimlessly. I mean, really hoping and praying that I would continue to at least maintain, I knew I wasn't going to probably improve, but I could maintain my skill set and my speed and my technique to where when we eventually would come back at some point in my junior year, I could hopefully hold on to what I had my sophomore year. Because swimming is one of those sports like dance, like a lot of sports, honestly, nowadays, where you don't get time off. You don't get to take a
No.
week off. It's every single day.
It's every day, and if you don't do it, somebody else will. And it's all
Exactly.
about the training and staying up to keeping
Exactly.
yourself pushing forward. And then you get to a point. Did you have aspirations of the Olympics? Were there ever anything that you thought you would be able to get to that
I
next
sure
place?
did. So when I was 15 years old, I qualified for Olympic trials. Went off to, it was in Omaha, Nebraska, went off to Omaha.
Yeah.
I swam with, the world's best. I'm in the pool with Katie Ledecky. I remember I get to this meet. I was young. I was probably one of the youngest competitors at that meet. So very naive, even still very oblivious to the fact I was even there competing at that stage. And so I walk into the natatorium. I click my first day there. I click the elevator button and the elevator doors open and it's Michael Phelps. And I, again, 15-year-old me, I'm like,
Yeah.
what am I doing here? Do I belong here? Like, that's Michael Phelps. And he was so gracious and so kind. And so that was in 2016. And then again in 2020, I qualified for Olympic trials, which because of COVID rolled over into 2021. And then I graduated in 22, could have held on for another 4 years and had that shot again. But I knew my time was I ended my career on a good note. And so we've seen too often where people stay involved, whether it's coaching, whether it's in politics, whatever it is, they stay 2 years too long.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to do that with my career. I was done. I was ready for the next.
And then you go through this whole thing. You spend all these years and all these hours dedicating yourself to the sport that you love and building relationships and traveling and doing all the things that you do. It's got to be very disheartening to see. And I don't even know how we got here. How did we even get to this place where it's been acceptable for biological males? And this is not a gay transgender thing. It's not anything to do with that to
No.
me. And I don't feel like it is with
No
you
way.
from our conversations. This is about right and wrong. Biological men should not be competing against biological women. It's like we took a step back 30 or 40 years
Boom.
with women's rights. It's unbelievable. And this is being accepted across the board. It's like people are brainwashed. I don't understand.
That's the truth. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head in saying that this is regressive. This is
Without a doubt.
That they use the guise of progress. We're moving in the forward direction, but
They're taking your rights away from you.
boom.
Yes.
Our rights enshrined. I mean, specifically in the case of competing athletically.
It's not like this is a chess match. This is not playing chess. This is
No.
not a benign sport. It's not.
No, and for a little bit of perspective, the male that we had to swim against, I'll give a brief backstory here.
Yeah.
It was my senior year. My junior year, this was when ultimately we were dealing with all the COVID stuff, even still, right? Like the social distancing and the contact tracing and the mandatory vaccines and the mandatory mask, which was the silliest thing in the world because, I mean, have you ever seen a swimmer in the water wearing a mask?
No.
No, but they
Unless they're
certainly
scuba
tried.
diving.
No, yeah, I like that. No, we essentially waterboarded ourselves every day. But nonetheless, my junior year, this is when I won my first individual SEC title. This is when University of Kentucky won its first ever SEC title as a team in program history. And I concluded my junior year by placing 7th in the nation, which I was proud of.
Absolutely.
You're top 8, you're an All-American. It's a pretty high honor, but I didn't go my best time. And so I knew I was capable of more. And so it was really right then and there, my junior year, that I set a goal for my senior year to win a national title, which would, of course, mean becoming the fastest woman in the country in my respective event. And so senior year rolls around, and I'm right on pace to achieve this goal. About midway through my senior year, I was ranked 3rd in the nation in the 200 free, trailing the girl in 2nd, which was a girl I knew very well because, like in most sports, your top-tier athletes know of each other, regardless of where you compete, because we'd grown up competing against each other, so I knew her very well. But the swimmer who was leading the nation by body lengths, might I add, was a swimmer that none of us had ever heard of before. And this is when we became aware of a swimmer named Leah Thomas, who we would soon learn is actually formerly Will Thomas, who swam 3 years on the men's team at University of Pennsylvania before deciding to switch to the women's team. Of course, I saw this, and naturally I was shocked. We were all shocked. And when I say we all, I mean my team, my coaches, my athletic director, my family, other competitors. We all knew this to be wrong. But I think really I felt relieved when I found out it was a man, because it's like, oh, duh. That makes sense. He's
That
a
makes
man.
sense. Yeah, because he's swimming that much faster times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I looked up, where he was ranking in his rightful division with the men, and he was, I mean, mediocre is generous. He was ranking in the 400s and 500s nationally, to again now dominating the entire country. And so I thought the NCAA would see it how I saw it. I thought they had guidelines in place that would have prevented him from competing with us. But lo and behold, the NCAA saw nothing wrong with this. And so it was about 3 weeks before our national championships in March of 2020 that they announced that his participation in the women's category was a non-negotiable, meaning there was nothing we could do. There was no questions we could ask. There were no concerns that we could raise. We were quite literally told we had to accept this with a smile on our face. And so I watched that first day as it was the 500 freestyle, which is not an event that I do. And so I watched on the side of the pool as he swam to a national title, beating out, again, Olympians. I mean, girls you just saw win Olympic medals a few weeks ago in the Olympics. I mean, these aren't scrubs. They're the most impressive and accomplished female swimmers this world has ever seen. And he beat them all by body lengths. But he and I ultimately raced in the 200 freestyle that next day, which almost impossibly enough resulted in a tie, meaning we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second, which one is kind of embarrassing for a 6'4" man. He couldn't even beat me.
And then they gave him the title.
That's it.
That's very frustrating. I want to ask. So the NCAA board, what does that panel consist of, and how are they elected? Are they selected? Are they elected by a committee? How do those people get in place? And I'm just curious about what goes on in that structure to get them to a place that they could allow this to happen.
Yeah, so they have, of course, there's the president of the NCAA. At the time, it was Mark Emmert, who, following this, has stepped down. New president, Charlie Baker, he was the former governor, Republican governor, nonetheless, of Massachusetts. He is now the president of the NCAA. But they have a board of governors. But I'll tell you what's so frustrating is talking to these people, whether it's athletic directors, whether it's presidents of universities, chancellors, speaking, even directly to the board of governors. You ask them, who is allowing this? They all know it's wrong. They say they know it's wrong.
Without a doubt.
At least not
They have
publicly,
to.
but they understand, and they say, our hands are tied. Even the president, Mark Emmert, who I said at the time was the president, I approached him at a big convention, their annual conference where they announced their NCAA Woman of the Year, which is the most prestigious honor for collegiate female athletes. Each university gets one nominee across all of their sports teams. And so University of Kentucky chose me as their nominee, which I was so honored by because it encompasses not just your athletic achievement, but also your academic success and your service. So it's really an all-encompassing award. And so I was so honored to be nominated.
Of course.
Until a full list of nominees were released for NCAA Woman of the Year.
Yeah.
And Leah Thomas was also nominated. But anyways, I go to this conference and I see Mark Emmert. And I approach him and, I introduce myself and I ask him, what can we do? And he says, you just keep fighting. But keep in mind, a few weeks earlier, he released a public statement saying he unequivocally stood in his decision to allow Leah Thomas to swim with the women because it was based in evolving science. Yet he tells me to keep fighting as if he's not the one that I am fighting. So all this to say, we are a nation, whether it is, again, the governing bodies, whether it's our government, what academic institutions, what have you, we are a nation that is governed by weak-kneed, spineless, morally bankrupt cowards, as proven by the NCAA.
Wow. That's a lot to digest. It really is. And the hostility that comes from standing your ground, everything that happened out in California, was it USC or UCLA?
Yeah, it was San Francisco State University.
Okay. I saw the clips from that where they had to barricade you into the
That's
freaking
right.
room. How terrifying was that?
That was, I truthfully, which I'm not someone who gets, I don't get spooked or scared easily, I'm one that stands my ground, but in that moment, I truthfully feared for my life. I was at San Francisco State University, a college campus, there to deliver a message. The students had invited me to speak to some of their students, and so I go there. But I was met with, I was ambushed, is what I was.
It just blows my mind too, the hostility that comes. It's like there in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen it go to the point where we can't even agree to disagree on anything
No.
anymore. And if you stand your ground on stuff, the hostility and the violence that is thrown at you is terrifying.
Well,
and I'm sure that's not the only place that you felt it. I don't understand how we got to the place that we can't even talk about things in a reasonable way anymore. It's either you agree with us or we're going to attack you.
Especially, in these academic institutions and universities, colleges, even more so at these prestigious universities, at least historically deemed prestigious universities like Harvard, Stanford, UCLA. Civil discourse is supposed to be encouraged. That's how you learn. I thought they embraced, diversity and diverse thought, but that's not what we're seeing. I have been spit on. I've had drinks poured on me. I've had glass bottles thrown at me. I've physically attacked and punched by these men wearing dresses and held for ransom for 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the night, where these protesters are demanding that I have to pay them money if I want to make it back home to see my family safely again. But all of that I think really proves that, at least on the topic of allowing men to compete in women's sports, the other side, those who oppose, what I would consider common sense, they don't have logic. They don't have reasoning. They don't have common sense. They don't have lived experience or science. What happened to follow the science? No, they don't have anything to dissuade from our stance, which I believe is why they resort to shouting, to screaming, to name calling.
Because that's all they've got.
To violence, exactly.
And it's not just about where we're at right now. I'm concerned about the impact that this has on young girls that look up to you and other athletes that have the dream of pursuing their own path, and parents that are concerned about letting their children play in competitive sports because of the danger of competing against biological males. This is not just about right now. This has far-reaching, lingering effects that will last for a long time.
No, you're exactly right, and that's why I continue to press on, because what we've seen, you asked the question of, how did we get here?
Yeah.
It's because for so long, it might not have seemed like for so long, but this has been happening even behind closed doors. I think, COVID really exposed a lot of things and definitely expedited the process. But for so long, as, just your everyday people, your everyday people who maybe would have even considered themselves apolitical, people who don't know a lot about the civil process or what have you, your everyday common sense person who intuitively knows that boys and girls are different. We sat idly by. We were complicit because, again,
if it didn't affect you immediately, it's like, oh, it'll work itself
exactly.
out. And we're all a little bit guilty of that
no
to
doubt.
some degree.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Me especially. I knew that, we found out who Leah Will Thomas was in November. We didn't compete against him until March, and even in those months, I knew it was wrong. We all did, like I said, but I didn't find it worthy to say something because I just figured someone else would.
And even having to compete with us one thing, but having him changing in the locker room with you is something else too.
I can't even put into words.
Yeah.
The feelings of, again, just to.
And was this kind of thing going on in high school too? Are they putting biological males in the dressing room and basketball dressing rooms? Is the same thing going on?
This is happening to. I've talked to parents even this same male athlete, which, to be very clear, he's not a one-off. But in talking to his teammates, they went on training trips where there are girls. Little girls like 5 years old in the locker room changing next to this 6'4" man.
And you're never going to justify that to me on any level.
No way.
No way.
That used to be correctly labeled as sexual harassment. To non-consensually be forced to exploit yourself.
Exposing yourself to a minor.
Yeah. No. And so to kind of set the scene of the locker room specifically, it's a swimming locker room, so it's not a place of modesty. These suits that you're putting on, your racing suits, they're skin tight, they're paper thin. It takes about, at least 15, 20 minutes to really poke and prod yourself into these suits. Which is 15 to 20 minutes, you're fully exposed.
Yeah.
You have your back turned. I was putting on my suit, and all of a sudden I heard a man's voice. And instinctually, you kind of cover and you turn around and there's a man towering over everyone else, stripping off his clothes, fully naked, fully intact, male genitalia, acted like he was just supposed to be in there. It's awkward, it's embarrassing, it's uncomfortable, but I mean, I think to really describe the general consensus of how we felt was, I mean, it felt like betrayal. Really, it was an utter violation
against the NCAA, against the adults and the staff and stuff that are around you.
Because these were people that we trusted.
Yes.
That was the hardest part. I loved, and even still, I loved my university. My coaches, who's very, I mean, they're supportive of the stand that I've taken. My athletic director, same thing. I trusted the NCAA. I love this organization, and all of a sudden, I meant nothing. I mean, they couldn't even bare minimum forewarn. We weren't even warned we would be sharing this locker room. And then when we approached them and said, is this really what's happening? He's in our locker room. They said, yeah, well, you need to learn how to be okay with this. Don't you want to be kind? Don't you want to be inclusive? That's what this is about. You need to be inclusive. They told us that, I mean, I had to go to training to learn how to the verbiage they used was to re-educate ourselves into being okay with seeing male genitalia. I had to go to sensitivity training to learn as a 21-year-old senior in college, where they brought in an outside professional, which I don't even know what that means.
It's a freaking joke.
Yeah. Who sat me down and taught me how to use she, her pronouns. And I had to keep going through the training until they were satisfied with how I was responding, how I was answering these mock interview questions.
And if you wouldn't have complied with that, you wouldn't have been allowed to compete, would you?
That's what they told us.
Yeah.
Which is, and truthfully, it's very similar, the tactics, what I would call emotional blackmail, really. It's the same thing they did during COVID, which is why I felt uniquely prepared to stand up for myself in this instance, because during COVID, it's the same thing. They said, you're going to be hurting your teammates. Riley, you're the captain of this team. You're supposed to be the leader. Don't you want to set a good example? Just get the vaccine. Didn't sit right with me. I'm like, you know what? I'm young. I'm healthy. I have nothing. I'm not this anti-vax person, but I'd already had COVID. I had the antibodies. I thought, isn't that the most natural and the best form of immunity? I don't have to get that vaccine.
Yeah.
They said, Riley, you won't be able to compete. I called them on their bluff, and I said, fine. Me being one of my team's, probably my team's best swimmer, again, the captain. Of course, I got to compete, and no, I didn't get the vaccine. Same thing my senior year. They said, you're not going to be able to, that scholarship that you signed, Riley. Remember, when you signed that, you gave away your rights to speak in your own personal capacity. Remember who you represent. Remember whose name is across your chest and across your cap, because it's not yours. It's ours, and understand, we have already taken your stance for you. That's what they said.
Wow.
But again, because I said no my sophomore and junior year, I was more willing to call them on their bluff, because I understood at this point that mandatory, it didn't really mean required. Mandatory was just kind of like, we suggest this and we'll threaten you, but we don't actually have the means to take action.
How were your teammates and the other people that you competed against as you traveled around different competitions? How were they towards you as your stance became public, even there toward the end of your college career as all this started coming out? How was it 50-50, some hostile, some supportive? What was the ratio for you?
I would say the ratio at least 95. At least 95% of the girls, my teammates, other competitors, even coaches, embraced me with gratitude. That's what I would say. It was, they were grateful, which breaks my heart. I'm not saying anything profound. I'm really not. I'm not overly wise.
You're standing up for yourself.
I'm just saying boys and girls are different.
Yeah.
It's the bare minimum, really. And so I really have been met with an incredible amount of support. Unfortunately, a lot of that support is private.
And it's awful that everybody's so afraid to take the stance and reach out. And I feel like some of that might be changing now.
Definitely.
And as you travel, I'm sure you're feeling that. And have you gained not only moral support but vocal support from athletes and people around the country? Have you seen that growing in the last couple of years? Definitely, I have. People are, as these circumstances and these situations, which again are tragic and should never happen, of girls being
again, exploited in locker rooms or losing out on opportunities or I mean, even injured in many cases in their sports, as these terrible things continue to happen, it is opening the eyes of people. It's allowing them to feel more comfortable and more valid and being bold and using clear sex-based language and saying, that's a man. To your point in the beginning, look, I have nothing against someone who wants to dress a certain way, someone who wants to be called a certain name. I've got nothing against that. The problem lies when we start to prioritize inclusion over safety, number one, and fairness, number two, as it pertains to sports, which is what we've seen. And yeah, the Olympics, oh my gosh, people see this in boxing, nonetheless.
Ridiculous.
In boxing, where I just imagine training your whole life to be the best that you can be at your sport. You get to the highest athletic stage, the Olympics. You're geared up, you're ready to go. You have these dreams and aspirations of winning an Olympic medal, and you're taken out by a male. Nonetheless, there were two men competing, and both men, athletes with Y chromosomes who had previously been banned from world championships for failing these sex eligibility requirements, you get knocked out by males who both won gold medals. I mean, this is like glorified domestic violence.
It's crazy.
To me.
The only thing more ridiculous than that was the Australian breakdancing girl.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I'm coming to your Halloween party and I'm going to dress up as her for Halloween.
It killed me. What was your major in college? What'd you major in?
So I majored in human health sciences and health law. And so when my plan, I was pre-dental. And so after college, I was actually in dental school to be a dentist. So to say, this is a 180 would be a total understatement. But I realized, the plan that I made for myself, the quickest way to make God laugh in your face is to make plans for yourself.
Yeah, I understand.
He very clearly had and continues to have very different plans for me.
As you've gotten traction, I know you're doing speaking engagements, you're traveling a lot, you're doing a lot of news interviews and things. Who manages all that stuff for you? Are you putting all of it together? Are you handling all your travel? Do you have an agent?
You're looking at her.
That's it. You're the one.
That's
that
it.
Do every bit of it yourself.
That's it.
How many speaking engagements are you doing a year right now on average?
It's a lot of travel.
Yeah.
I feel like I wear a bunch of different hats now, and so do a lot on the legislative front and really trying to advance policies to combat the progressive policies that we are seeing being implemented again at every level, local level, state level, of course, the federal level, what we've seen there, challenging governing bodies like the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, like the NCAA. And so doing a whole lot of testifying and drafting legislation and even teaching lawmakers how to talk about these issues. That's another problem is even people who have good intentions, they might not know, and I don't blame them. How would you know? They don't know the best way to convey that this is wrong while also being persuasive and garnering that support. And so there's lots of that. As you said, on the media front, just doing everything that I can to spread awareness, to highlight what's going on, to share stories of other athletes, other women. I've taken this role now of even women in prisons who, they're in all-female institutions, but they're having male inmates who have previously been convicted of heinous, awful sexual crimes, are realizing, the best way to get into a woman's prison is to say, I'm a woman, and they're being transferred to these women's prisons, and they're raping these women. And guess who's paying for it?
Yeah.
You are, and I am, and our taxpayer dollars are.
It's insane.
It's beyond insane. And so, again, just trying to let the American people, really globally, people around the world know what's happening and why this is especially harmful.
What kind of progress have we made as far as legislation? You talked a little bit about that before. I know. Do you feel like we're moving forward with it? Is it gaining traction? Are 5 years? Are we going to put this thing to bed? Are we going to stop this mess?
I sure hope so. Now 25 states. So 3 years ago, only one state had a protection of women and girls in sports bill in place to prevent men from competing on women's teams. That was Idaho, and now 25 states do. So half the states in the nation, which is, again, phenomenal over 3 years. 9 states have now passed a law codifying and defining the word woman in law. I can't even believe that we have to do that. But we have a sitting Supreme Court justice who can't even answer the question of what is a woman because she claims she's not a biologist. Guess what? I'm not a veterinarian, but I know what a dog is. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And it's no surprise that this is the same Supreme Court justice who recently, I was watching an interview she was doing, and she said she felt like our First Amendment rights were hamstringing the government.
What?
Precisely. That's what they're supposed to do. That's why we have the Bill of Rights. And if our government can't understand or abide by that, that's precisely why we have the Second Amendment, Tracy. So no shock there. So at the federal level, just very briefly, Title IX, right? I mean, you said, you mentioned this is 50 years of hard work. Title IX was enacted in 1972, so 52 years ago now. Very brief in its original implementation, only 37 words, but and had, lots of effects, but most notable for allowing women equal opportunity in sports, any educational program that receives federal funding. But this administration that we have in the White House right now has taken Title IX, created a new proposal, and so from this 37 words, drafted a new proposal that's now almost 500,000 words, which should tell you everything that you need to know. But they've abolished Title IX. Title IX doesn't exist anymore. It does, but not in its original implementation. So doing what we can to push back there as well.
It's just really sad to me that we spent decades creating more opportunities and pathways for women to have better job opportunities and be more on an equal level playing field, all those things, and that we've just digressed and regressed at this point. It's really hard to understand exactly how we got to this place. I'm going to bring it up. I don't understand how we got here.
No, I know it. Looking at it now, I've learned a lot. As I said, I was very naive to not even just this stuff. I mean, to life around me as you are at 21.
You spent all your time in a pool.
Exactly.
You've been swimming your whole life.
Exactly. I didn't want anything to do with.
I'm sure you weren't studying political law at that point.
No way. I think you have to be clinically insane to do that. But I've learned now, having a better understanding of what's happening. Right. If you look at the denial of biblical truth and objective truth, the shift in language, how they've conflated words like compassion. They say be compassionate when what we're seeing is not, it's not compassion. That's not inclusion. And are we forgetting women's sports were creative explicitly to be exclusive? They were created to be exclusive. That's what a category is. So even the phrasing of biological women, it's so stupid, really, is what it is, for lack of a better word. It's silly. I adhered to this for a long time. I'd call myself a biological female. Thomas is a biological male. And then I'm like, if this was like a math equation, wouldn't those words just cancel out? Why do I have to say that prerequisite when describing myself? Of course I'm biological. I'm a being. I'm made of matter and things. Of course I am biological. What a silly prefix to introducing myself. And then I realized when you do that, it's as if you're implying there's an unbiological alternative to being a female. And there's not.
There's not.
No. So the denial of truth, the shift in language, the breakdown of our freedoms, the breakdown of the family unit, pinning parents and kids even against each other, the breakdown of our faith. We used to be a country that proudly stood by the slogan of one nation under God, or in God we trust. The propaganda that we see spread, certainly that exists on both sides. I mean, if you look at all of these things, and the list continues, if you look at these for what they are, it really only points in one direction. And not to get too philosophical, too deep, but that direction is Marxism.
We're heading there fast.
We're getting there fast. And you talk to someone from North Korea or China or Russia or Germany or Cuba or Brazil or Venezuela, even as of recently, and they'll tell you that it's a slippery slope. Even
with all the flaws that we have in our country and the political issues and the harsh back and forth, capitalism is still, in my opinion, the best way for a free society to grow. When you stifle that, when you stifle the free market, you're taking people's desires and dreams away from them, because if you have no pathway to achieve success, what's the point in trying? If we're all just the same, we're
Exactly.
not all put here to be the same. I'm sorry, that's not the way it's designed.
No, no.
And we shouldn't all be shoved in one box like that.
No.
It's demoralizing.
Exactly.
It just beats you down.
Well, why work at anything if you know you have to give what you've earned to someone else who isn't working hard? I mean,
It completely destroys the fabric of our society.
It does.
It does.
It does. So I couldn't agree more. The attacks again on our basic rights are we've talked about how they stifle speech, the censorship that we see. You look at these things, and it really is foundational. They are attacking the foundation of what makes this country so great. Why people want to come to America, because it really is, even still, it is the greatest nation in the entire world. We are so blessed to live here where you can protest in the way that people do. You can't do that in other places.
No.
That's the beauty of America. But unfortunately, it seems to be under attack.
What was your learning curve as far as political? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you had to digest and study up on as you started going out and doing speaking engagements, as far as your political learning curve, your law learning curve, studying
Man, you
the
just get-
Constitution. I mean, that's a big, deep well to dive into, and you're extremely articulate. I can tell that you've done a lot of research. You know what you're talking about. What was your learning curve like?
Well, for a little, again, background, I knew nothing. I never had to take a government course. I never had to take history past like 9th grade. So the extent of my knowledge in history and our civil process was I knew we had 3 branches of government. Didn't know what they did. I still don't know what they do. I don't even think they know what they do.
Because they're not doing anything. Because it's all run by the
No.
deep state.
No, but I've learned by literally being thrown into it.
Yeah.
I've had no other choice but to learn, and so I've really tried to listen to both sides, not just people who agree with me, people who support the stand that I've taken, but I want to understand where the other side is coming from, whether it's on this issue, whatever issue, because again, now being exposed to it, I see this is so much broader than just women's
Have you
sports.
been able to have those conversations with more of people that view this from a different perspective? And have you made any progress there?
Yes and no. Honestly, I still couldn't tell you the other side's argument other than if we don't, people are going to die, which is so dire and so grave and so not true. But again, that's what they say. They say, and again, back to what we were told even by our universities, they said, you'll have blood on your hands if you don't accept this, if you aren't inclusive, if you're not supportive of everything that this community wants to do. You'll be a murderer. That's what they say. Or the other side says this is just a solution in search of a problem. It's not really happening. It doesn't really exist, which if you look at, again, history and what time tells us, I mean, that's a pretty laid out process already. They'll say it's not happening, and next it will be, okay, well, it's happening, but it's not often. And then it's okay, well, yes, it is happening, but here's why it's a good thing. And then it's like the 4th step, I guess, is, yeah, it's happening, and this is why you're wrong for pointing out that it's a bad thing.
How much of this is really biological males believing that they were born in the wrong body, and how much of this is opportunistic? Are they taking advantage of a situation when they really don't live that lifestyle? They're just competing for the glory, and they're doing this for, you know what I'm saying?
For sure. It's hard to say exactly, but what I can say is I have definitely encountered many opportunists. Again, because it's not even just sports where this infiltration, this overall erasure, this systemic erasure of women is happening. Again, it is prisons. It is sororities. It's dorm rooms. It's bathrooms. It's locker rooms, changing spaces, domestic violence shelters even. I mean, this attack is widespread at this point. And in cases of prisons in particular, I mean, you have, like I said, it sounds awesome for a rapist to be in a women's prison, doesn't it? In
like
California,
shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awful.
But really, that's what they're subjecting these women to. And so even in California, they've just passed a bill for women in these correctional facilities to have access to birth control and contraceptives. Now, why would women need
In
access
prison to
contraceptives
Yeah.
in an all women's facility? They have condom dispensers in their prisons. They have dental dams. They worked overtime, these correctional officers, on Super Bowl Sunday to install these condom dispensers. So these men, at least, I mean, AIDS is running rampant in women's prisons.
Really?
In California, because male inmates, again, they're raping these women. So all of that to say, there are many, many opportunists in this movement who see a way to be celebrated. They see a way for attention. And again, I'm not claiming to speak for everyone, but it is something that certainly exists.
It has to be, to some degree, opportunistic.
For sure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
For sure it is.
So, with all the stress that you deal with when you're traveling all the time, doing all these speaking engagements, how do you decompress? How much time do you take off? Have you found balance in all this shit? Because you can't stay on this treadmill all the time. You got to get off of it. You got to come home and have some downtime.
No way. No, I'm fortunate to have an amazing family. I've got an awesome husband who is very supportive of me. He came here from England, so he's one of those people who understands.
You're making him blush.
We got it better over here for sure.
It's crazy over in England right now too. They're on the verge of a
mess.
Civil War, aren't they? It's crazy.
It's a mess. It's a mess. Yeah. And for similar things, which England is much smaller. It's about the size of California, so it's a good indicator of what is to happen here in the U.S. And so, I mean, they're setting things on fire. They're flipping over cars. They've opened their borders. It's very similar to what we're experiencing here. But I've got horse. I've got a bunch of dogs. My dogs had dogs. So for a while we had 12 dogs. So I really am just a normal human being who wants to enjoy normal Southern Tennessee life. That's what I want. Eventually, would love to get back to dentistry, to dental school. But in the meantime, because again, like I said, I really think you do have to be insane to voluntarily put yourself through.
You put yourself on the front line for sure.
Bring it on.
And I mean, is this another 3 year, 5 year? I mean, how long are you going to continue to do this? I mean, you've got to have some kind of strategy in your mind.
Yeah. There's a lot weighing on the future at the moment. Because I think who goes into the White House changes things from at least a national perspective of what we can expect in terms of policy. But as long as this is continuing to happen on the level that it is now, and as long as people continue to stay silent, like unfortunately they have been, I'll keep being that voice because I'm really not. I'm not scared. The vitriol that I face, it rolls right off my back. It doesn't hurt my feelings when people say, I would say the main like pushback that I get is people who have probably never played sports in their entire lives. And they say, why didn't you just train harder? Genius. Thank you. I never thought of that, actually. Just swimming faster. Thank you. It's people who say, they'll attack your physical appearance in some way. And they'll say, well, your extensions and your hair look bad. I'm like, this is my real hair. So thank you. I think that's a compliment. I think that is a compliment. It's people who just resort to name calling. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It really doesn't. At first, of course, naturally it did, but now
do toughen up after you get pounded enough.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure in your industry too, the attacks from different angles, whatever the topic or situation.
There's challenges
might be.
in everything. I mean, nothing comes for free.
No.
I mean, it's all comes with challenges and a lot of sacrifice and hard work. That's
Exactly.
just part of the journey of life.
That's it.
And you never know. I mean, when you, like you said early on, when you think you've got it figured out, just make some plans and watch God change your plans for you, because He will.
Oh,
yeah.
And He does.
Is there any political aspirations in the future for you? Has this opened up some doors for that?
We'll see. I'm not that crazy yet. I think that
you got to be a little insane to step into that world.
And like I said, I've just really seen people talk about the corruption that exists, but I really have seen it now. And again, it's on both sides.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, it's on both sides. I don't even think one side is. I think one side is worse than the other in terms of.
Right now, but that can pivot.
But but not in terms of the corruption. It is just as prevalent, just as bad on both sides. And so it's disheartening to see and to understand. I mean, similarly to the NCAA, like you want to trust our government, the people whose job it is to protect us. That's their sole job. They don't have anything else they're supposed to do. They're supposed to provide protection and security to Americans. They're failing at that.
Yeah, and it's the realities of becoming an adult. When you wake up one day and your eyes are open to what's going on around you, you go, I have been so blind and so naive for so many years to what's going on around me, because it's a rude awakening.
And you wish you could go back sometimes, but what way is that to live ignorantly?
Once you've been red pilled, you can't you can't go backward.
I know.
Once you see it for what it is, you can't unsee it. It's just impossible.
Exactly. But that's why, I mean, I appreciate people like yourself, people who are willing to, I mean, even to engage in a conversation with me, because, I mean, it sounds silly, but that's even subjecting you to some sort of criticism or pushback. And so I can't thank you enough, which I imagine, your base.
Yeah. But part of my objective was, I mean, it was to really get people to see the real person that's here.
Right.
You're a human being. You're a person that's dedicated many years and many hours to pursuing a dream and a skill set.
Right.
And the world kind of shit on you. the NCAA shit on you. I mean,
Totally.
and it's very frustrating. And I see it in professional sports and all these other things too. I just hopefully something can happen in the very near future as people start to get a spine to them and stand up and wave their flag again, and we can kind of move back to a place where God's prevalent in our country and we get our moral foundation back right, and politicians quit screwing over everybody. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, there's a whole lot of things that we could go into other things about, people having insider trading tips and how many millions of dollars career politicians have made. That is not why you go into politics. You go in to serve the population.
You're a public servant.
And then when your time is done, you should go back to your job. I just don't think we should have long terms for these politicians. There's a whole other conversation we can go to.
No doubt about that. It seems like I say we run for president and vice president. What do you think?
Oh my Lord, I don't think I could take it. You see the pounding that Donald Trump has taken. I was just with Don Jr. at an event recently, and I so want to sit down and have a conversation with him. I don't know how they have taken the personal attacks that they've taken.
He's got
it would
some
terrify
endurance.
for my family. They tried to kill the man. He took a bullet to the head. It's terrifying, and to know that they're not done yet.
No way.
Yeah, no.
Well, they've exhausted every option. They tried to bankrupt him first. They tried to take him off the ballot. They tried to put him in jail. And then if that doesn't work, let's just kill him. Yeah. Let's just take him out.
Yeah.
So it is. It's he's got some endurance. Donald Trump is one of he's so smart. He is so sharp. He is so, I've had the pleasure of being around him many, many times now. And every time, he's, Riley, how you doing? How's your husband, Louie? He's so sharp. It's crazy. He's old. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not old. He's 78, but he is there. He's got it. He's got it together for sure.
So let's kind of get off this for a little bit. Let's talk about music, because when we met, you're a huge music fan.
Oh yeah.
All different genres. What's your favorite stuff out there?
Well, of course, living in the Nashville area,
you're exposed to all of it from birth here.
I know. I remember when I was little, and I went to a Starbucks downtown, and I saw Keith Urban in there, and I just remember thinking it was like the coolest thing ever. And so, big country music fan. We're always at CMA Fest. We're going to shows and concerts whenever we can. Big Tracy Lawrence fan. Paint Me in Birmingham was on in my house.
Thank you.
All the time. So really big fan. Now we love Riley Green. I love Jason Aldean. I love his wife, Brittany. They're again,
great
just
people,
awesome.
And they've taken a
people.
lot of abuse too, because they've been very vocal and taken a public stance too.
For sure.
It's been fascinating to watch. And some of it's ridiculous. Try that in a small town when that came out. It had nothing to do with what they were talking about.
No.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
No, but again, you saw the pushback that they got. But it's only really propelled them forward, because people saw the absurdity of what they were facing for this song. And so it really only helped them, which I I'm super glad about, because the song is awesome. They're awesome.
You know, and for Jason to still be unafraid to step out there and speak his mind and his voice and put his family out there after everything that happened in Las Vegas
in
a few years
Vegas,
ago.
that's right.
You know, because I mean, I talked to him after that. They were diving on the floor of the bus and bullets were flying through the bus. They drug him off stage and threw them in the bus, and his bus was taking shots.
Isn't that
It's
insane?
terrifying.
Isn't that insane? And not too long ago, that's what
Yeah.
I think people forget is, we live in this time where everything is, it's, the news cycle is next thing, next thing, next thing. But I mean, crazy that not even that long ago this was happening. And yeah, to stand as firm as they are is incredible.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh, my go-to karaoke.
I want to hear it. Come on.
I went downtown a couple weeks ago and we sang Hotel California.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we what else? Don't Stop Believing. That's always a good one. But we love doing, going downtown, all the bars. Everybody's got a bar down there, and so we're frequent.
It's a little overwhelming down
it's
there. I
totally
can't go down there
overwhelming.
very much. I mean, it's like a once-a-year trip, and it usually takes me about 3 days to recover from it.
No doubt about
it's
that.
like rent a van,
Dude,
get
and
a driver.
the
'cause
bridal sashes and
the woo girls.
Oh, that's what it is. And the sequin cowboy hats and
It's so funny.
all the boots.
So I've got friends that live like in apartments, condos, and stuff downtown, and they're like, "Oh God, 3 o'clock in the morning, the woo girls are still going." It's
Woo
like it
girls.
never ends.
That's too good.
Yeah.
No, it never ends. I've got so many friends who take their bachelorette trips and birthday bashes, and everybody wants to come to Nashville.
Growing up here, I mean, it's been amazing to watch this city change, hasn't it?
It's changed a lot.
What's some of your favorite stuff about the growth that we've had, and what do you miss about the way it was before?
Let's see. I think something that has affected Nashville is the traffic.
Yes.
Man, it's crazy. We're turning into Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so definitely miss clearer roads. Things are more expensive now. I mean,
That's everywhere, though.
That's everywhere. But I mean, even from a year ago, things are the land that we have. Even this land that we're sitting on,
Yeah.
what you bought it for 20, 30 years ago, gosh, you could, more than quadruple what you paid for.
Oh, without a doubt.
Easily.
And it's escalating every year. It's continuing to go up.
For sure.
Well,
but I love that people are moving here. I really do. I know a lot of people who have come from California who literally call themselves, not my words, they'll call themselves political refugees. They're like, we had to get out. But I love that Tennessee can be that haven. It shows how, this really is, it is about unity. That's what this is. That's Tennessee is, traveling a lot. I'm sure yourself, every time I leave, I'm anxious to get back here because
Well, going through COVID, I felt like we were very blessed here. Even though we were locked down for a little bit, I had friends in the theater in New York. I had actor friends and people out in California. They were locked down. I saw video clips of a guy out there
You couldn't go to the
paddleboarding in the
gym.
bay, and they came out and arrested him from paddleboarding by himself in the bay because he didn't have a mask on. Just crazy
Insane,
stuff.
insane.
But here, we had, after about 3 months, you could still go out.
Things were open.
They might have been downsized, but you could go out and eat, and you could go to the grocery store and do things.
sure.
It wasn't so heavy-handed here like it was in other parts of the country.
No way.
I had friends in the theater world in New York that her and her husband couldn't go out at the same time and walk the dog. They could only go one at a time. It was just insane stuff.
Wow. Yeah, no, we're blessed here. I think at the beginning, just when there was that uncertainty that no one knew what was happening, pretty early on in March, things shut down for a brief second. And then we realized, okay, this is, similar to the flu is what this is. Let's
I had it 3 or 4 times.
let's
Yeah.
loosen things. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, and it just got weaker and weaker every time.
Exactly.
It's just an irritant, and people are still getting. When was the last time? It wasn't too long ago. Somebody had it again.
Somebody in our camp had it. A
So
couple
this is
weeks ago.
Junior and Scott.
Hello.
Junior's real name is Derek. He plays guitar in the band. Scott plays piano.
We love it.
They're my partners in crime in this thing. Yeah.
I know. We've all got them. So you'll have to put up with them, huh?
Yeah, they have to put up with me. I'm not as bad as I used to be. I've calmed way down.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
I've
You're a lot
calmed
of
way
fun.
down. I have my moments.
Who in the music world now is that kind of young, rambunctious,
Morgan Wallen.
I knew you were going to say it.
I don't throw chairs off the top of buildings anymore.
Yeah. No, I figured that was coming.
Yeah, I was the wild child in the '90s. I was the one that was in trouble all the time. I've had to calm way down, but I'm about to celebrate my 25th wedding anniversary
that
with
amazing?
my wife.
God
We've been
bless.
together 27 years, and our kids are grown, and she's starting to travel on the road with me all the time. So we're just,
Yeah, your wife is
kinda,
awesome.
We've kind of got to that place where we've reconnected, and our marriage is good, and the kids are good, and I'm enjoying my career, and we're traveling all the time, and we love to go abroad. We love Italy.
Yeah.
So we're just doing things that we've just. I mean, I've had my head down grinding it out for so many years. It just feels good to kind of get to a place that I can take a breath and say, I want to live more life and go see and do things. And when we travel abroad, I've always told the kids, don't buy into everything that you see on the news. When you're going to another country, don't bring your American ideology with you. Leave that at home. Let's go. You might not like it, but we're going to try everything on the menu.
Course.
We're going to taste it. We're going to meet people. And we're going to experience the culture and the people. And, if you put that foot forward, I found that there's good people everywhere you go.
Of course.
There really is.
No, of course there is. Yeah, and I think they can share that same sentiment. I think a lot of people, everyone, you've got these certain biases or stereotypes that exist in your head, but to be able to connect with people as an American even, it gives them a different insight as to what it is over here. So that's powerful. And yeah, with my husband being from England, we've got to spend some time over there, and we've been to Greece. He lived in Dubai. He lived in Malta and Kuwait and all kinds of different places. And so traveling.
What's been one of your favorite places to go?
Ooh.
Because I'm always looking for, I haven't been to Croatia yet. I want to go to Croatia. I haven't been to Greece. We're talking about making that one of our next stops.
You'd love it.
Yeah, going to Athens and the Greek Isles.
You'd love it. It's beautiful. I think probably one of my favorite places, though, is Alaska.
Really?
You've been to Alaska?
I have.
It's
I've been in the summer. Mosquitoes are the size of small birds. They're really
right.
large.
No joke.
And I've also been in the winter. I got roped into playing shows in January in
Oh.
Fairbanks and Anchorage.
You get stuck over there.
Flying into Fairbanks with 30-foot snow banks on the side. And, it's like taking off is terrifying because please get the de-icer all over those wings because it's freezing. I mean, you get outside you go from a runner vehicle to the door as fast as you can. You're playing ice hockey or rinks. And,
That's
and
the
it's,
truth.
But those people, when you go there, it's packed because those people don't have anything else to do.
No, that's so true.
Yeah, winter's miserable.
Yeah, and it's dark and it's cold. So yeah. But it's beautiful.
But the summer is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
It really.
It is. So we like out west. We hunt. We do a lot of hunting. Of course, deer and turkey here, but we went on an elk hunt last year.
That's cool.
So yeah, we like getting out west and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love to hunt. Have you had the chance to hunt in West Texas at all?
Never.
Some of the big high fence ranches, lots of exotics, and one of my favorite places we have Axis and Oric and Fallow and just all kinds of cool.
You just went down with Governor Landry.
I was down there alligator hunting with Governor Landry.
So
He's become
cool.
a good friend of mine.
He's great.
He really is.
He was in town not too long ago, on Governor Huckabee's show, which is filmed here, and he is so great. He's, of course, he's got that pretty deep Cajun accent.
Oh, it's thick.
Oh, it's thick. And so
That's what
right.
he does.
He met my husband who, has this British accent, but living in the South, it's just become totally Southernized. And so Governor Landry was talking to my husband, Louis, and he's like, stops him midway through a sentence. He's like, "Are you from Louisiana?" He's like, "Is that a Cajun accent that you have?" And Louis like, "No, it's time for me to go home. I need to go back to England."
Have you met Sarah Huckabee Sanders?
Oh, she's great.
I love her to death.
She's great.
Yep.
She's a bulldog.
Without a doubt.
She's fierce, but the thing I love about her is she's fierce, but she's still feminine. I think she's a wonderful female role model, which there's not a ton of those. Really?
Say, I've known her dad for years. I mean, since he was governor of Arkansas, and I've done his TV show several times. But I got to meet her for the first time when she was still in Trump's cabinet, when she was still
press secretary.
the press secretary at one of Landry's events several years ago. And I got to visit with her for hours. Had so much respect for her. She took a beating now. I mean,
sure
standing
did.
there, they pounded her every day. She couldn't even go out to restaurants with her kids. I mean, I had a lot of respect for her, just how tough she was and how intelligent she is. I mean, she was always well prepared. She went in. I mean, she took a beating. I mean,
yeah.
she's somebody to definitely look up to.
And she defended him, She was she's the
And
real
still
deal.
does.
Yeah, and still does.
Yep.
Yeah, she's the real deal. So I really like her a whole lot. There's we talked about the corruption, but there's good people too.
Yes,
and
there
she's
are.
she's one of the good ones.
I believe.
Both
Might
these
not agree with
governors-
all of her policies, but you don't with everybody's stance.
That's anybody.
That's just the way it is. But she's somebody that you can agree to disagree with, and you can sit down and have an intelligent conversation with and walk away feeling like that was very healthy.
Both Governor Landry and Governor Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas, they were two of the 9 states that signed the piece of legislation I was talking about that defines the word woman, which again speaks to their leadership and their willingness to do what they know is right, despite, it might not be politically favorable. But again, it shows how they're both strong leaders.
Yeah. What's your itinerary for the rest of the year? Where are your speaking engagements at? And what you got on the books?
We'll see. I was in Arizona with President Trump and was able to introduce him at his rally where he brought out RFK, which was super cool.
Oh, so you were there for that?
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, no, that was super cool to be there, to be able to witness. I mean, it's pretty historic. I never thought in my life I'd see a Kennedy Democrat endorsing a Republican, nonetheless Donald Trump. So it was pretty cool to see, to be able to be there. We'll see, man. It's a lot of travel. Just going to especially these swing states and just really trying to encourage people to vote. I'm really trying to persuade them to vote for the candidate that I believe will be have the best protections for women, for parental rights, for the safeguarding of children, but really just encouraging them to exercise their constitutional right, because again, we're blessed here in this country to be able to do that. Winning back the Senate, that's a big one. We've seen these past 4 years, we have the majority in Congress, but bills go to the Senate and they die because everything falls on party lines. Not that it would really even matter if it passed the Senate because it would get vetoed on the governor's or on the president's desk. So there's some big pushes getting on college campuses, again, just mobilizing the youth. I think it's important. People my age, 20-year-olds.
5 years ago, would you have envisioned yourself using the verbiage that you just used?
I don't even know what I just said. So no, I wouldn't have. No way would I have. And which it scares me for the next 5 years. It's like where am I going to be? What am I going to be doing?
I'm sure you're going to figure it out. You seem like you got a good head on your shoulders.
Well, just trusting God,
That's all we can do.
Leaning into. And really trying to listen to his calling. So,
can we do this again down the road sometime?
Please, I would love it.
I think it would be good.
I'd love it. Well, we're running for president and vice president.
Yes,
so we're gonna have to.
That would be in 2028.
I have to be 35, I think.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
So it has to.
Well, I'm good.
So it has to be at least 2030.
I think I'm 73 in dog years. I don't know. So, website with all your information stuff, or do you?
Yeah. You can follow me on X at Riley_Gaines_. My Instagram is Riley G Barker. I just wrote a national best-selling book, which is super exciting, and that's called "Swimming Against the Current: Fighting for Common Sense in a World That's Lost Its Mind." So you can check all that out.
Awesome. Boys, y'all got anything you want to ask? Gentlemen?
Well, I guess I need to read your book because that was kind of my question is, other than voting, what can just the average guy do to help the cause, If you're just a plumber or you're a piano player or whatever.
Man, it's to just be bold and clear. It's not hard to say what I'm saying. It's actually the easiest thing in the world to say that men and women are different. There are two sexes. You can't change your sex. Each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, privacy, and safety. And every single person has a circle of influence. That's something I run into a lot is people say, I don't have a lot of followers. Well, that doesn't matter. You've got people in your life. You've got people around you. Everyone has a circle of influence. So just don't shy away. Of course, approach it with grace and the true meaning of compassion, but never falter or waver from what is true, what is objectively true, and again, what is biblically and morally sound and true. So,
Awesome. So you mentioned one of them earlier, but what would be an insult that you've received that you're the most proud of?
Ooh.
That's good, Junior.
You know what?
Come on.
I was named this past year. I can't even remember what the group was, but it's a big like human rights activist campaign group, and they named me the most problematic woman of the year. And I'm like, you know what? That is a badge I wear with honor, because it's seldom that unproblematic people get things done. So I am proud to call myself problematic.
But I don't want to get out of here without asking about your dogs, because you said you had a bunch. So I had a pair of Great Danes that were brothers. The one of them had a heart attack and died in May.
Man.
They were both 8 years old in June, so he just passed. But I got one Great Dane left. I got a mini Aussie. We have a Pekingese and a Shih Tzu, and then we have a Golden Doodle in the house and 4 cats.
Y'all are crazy.
Well, what are yours?
Springer Spaniels.
All of them.
So yeah. Grew up with German Shorthair Pointers, so my family has 4 of those in total now, and then we have Springer Spaniels, and I thought I would be able to, we didn't get the girl spayed, we didn't get the male neutered, and so I just thought I would be able to control more. So, they're not going to have puppies. I don't know why I thought that.
I don't trust people that don't have pets.
I know, no way. No way.
So I just found this new breed online. It's called a Floodle.
Never heard of
And it is a Frenchie and a poodle crossed. And the pink Floodle, there's a pink Floodle. There's only like 30 of them in existence. They came from a breeder over in the UK. They hadn't even been UKC registered or recognized yet, but they're white with little pink eyes, little Frenchies crossed with poodles, so they're hyperallergenic. They don't shed. They're beautiful.
I want to see.
The Floodle.
Floodle?
That's Floodle, but the pink Floodle is like really. Is that one right there? The pink Floodle. Yeah.
I'm so curious.
There's the pink Floodle. Look at it. Is that not ridiculous?
I think when we're in the White House, we're going to have a Floodle.
We have to have a Floodle. I love dogs. I've had a dog since I was a little kid. Look at that one.
That is
that
really
ridiculous.
Look at the nose.
The pink Floodle.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
No, I know. I'm an animal girl, and so I'm going to bring ducks home soon. I don't know.
Ducks and
my
cats.
husband-
Got to protect the ducks and cats.
I agree. I know, right? I know. Ain't nobody getting on our lawn. Taking our ducks and cats.
Thank you for your time. I've enjoyed
Thank
the
you.
visit. Anything else that I've missed? Did we talk about everything?
No. But just to reiterate, big fan, always
Thank
following and cheering you on. And your wife, had the opportunity to meet her back when we were able to see you and Riley Green. And so you guys are just incredible. Great family. So thank you.
You're welcome around us anytime. So just stay in touch.
I'm coming to the Halloween party.
Come on. Riley Gaines.